Hey, good afternoon, good evening. Glad that y'all are with us today. This is week 11. We're almost to the end of the semester. I can't believe that the semester is almost over. Seems like we were just getting started doing this, but we're going to be looking at chapter 9 today in the Good and Beautiful God. And I really hope and pray that y'all's small group experience has been great, that you've made some good friends, that things are going well. In chapter 9, we're looking at some of the dynamics of just being busy and what it looks like. Have you ever noticed that everyone is always busy? If you ask someone how they're doing, and the majority of people nowadays will say something to the fact that, oh, I'm busy, I can't get it all done, I'm in above my head. I think that the answer, the why they do that, I think is probably one of two things. I think that one, they are that busy and they truly do have that much stuff going on and they truly do feel overwhelmed. Or second, sometimes I feel that people say that they're busy just because they feel that that's what the world or that's what the American way is that we're supposed to be doing so much stuff, that we're supposed to be filling every nook and cranny of our life with busyness, that they sometimes say that they're busy when they might not be busy. We live in a society where busy is the expected norm. Whether we like it or not, that's what people expect of us. People expect 55-hour-a-week work weeks. They expect kids that are involved in 6 different activities. Even the church is asking us to do things on 3 or 4 nights a week. You know, Christians, we fall right along with the world when it comes to being busy. We get caught up into doing so much and keeping up with everything that we feel that we need to do, that we are often so busy. That's the false narrative that we're going to be looking at today. The false narrative that we're looking at today is that Martha's way is best. If you look in Scripture, the story about Mary and Martha, Lazarus' sisters that Jesus went to visit, we notice that the world thinks that Martha's way is best. Martha is the sister that got upset with Mary because she was doing all the work herself and her sister wasn't doing it. The world thinks that we need to be busy. You know, there's 2 quotes that I want to read you in the book from Jeremy Rifkin. He writes about America's just need for speed and hurry and distraction, and he says this: "We are a nation in love with speed. We drive fast, we eat fast, make love fast. We are obsessed with breaking records and shortening time spans. We digest our life, condense our experiences, and compress our thoughts. We are a culture surrounded by memos and commercials. While other cultures might believe haste makes waste, we are convinced that speed reflects alertness, power, and success. Americans are always in a hurry." And later he writes this, he says, "It is ironic that in a culture so committed to saving time, we feel increasingly deprived of the very thing we value. Despite of our alleged efficiency, we seem to have less time for ourselves and far less time for each other. We have quickened the pace of life only to become less patient. We have become more organized but less spontaneous, less joyful. We are better prepared to act on the future but less able to enjoy the present and reflect on the past. Today we have surrounded ourselves with time-saving technological gadgetry, only to be overwhelmed by plans that cannot be carried out, appointments that cannot be honored, schedules that cannot be fulfilled, and deadlines that cannot be met." I don't know about y'all, but as I read that this week, I feel very comfortable with agreeing with Mr. Rifkin about those statements, that we are a country, we are a people that are unbelievably busy. You know, how did we get there? The book goes through this on how did we get there. You know, the monks were the first people that had invented the clock, and they did so, 1,000 years ago, and they did it in a way that they could work and pray in a regulated manner. They wanted to make sure that they prayed a percentage of the day. And so they created these clocks so that they could measure their work and their play, because their praying. They felt that work and praying were the 2 things that they could do to glorify God, and they wanted to make sure that it was regulated. I found it interesting that in 1370, The first clock was erected in a public square in Cologne, Germany. The hours, as a result of that, a clock being erected in the public square there in Germany, the hours of a work day were scheduled, and a curfew was enacted for the very first time. No longer did it just, you get up when the sun got up and you went to bed when the sun went down. They began to have this thing called a clock, and we began to measure time. You know, Frederick Wilson Taylor took a stopwatch into a steel plant in the first decade of the last century, in the early 1900s, and it truly changed the way we work and the way things happen. What he did is he went in there and he began to time each process in that steel plant to see how long each process took. And as he measured those times, he began to come up with how much time it should take for each to happen. And they began to, instead of focusing on the people that were doing the job, they began to focus on the job and the time that it took. And he had this quote that is really pretty scary in the book that he published, and it says this. It says, "In the past, man has been first. In the future, the system must be first." We've slipped into a society where the system, where getting things done has become first, more than the person that are doing it, more than the man that is doing it. You know, we learn about the tyranny of the urgent. We always have something to do. We always have to get something done very quickly. You go into a fast food restaurant, you go into any place, and it's all about how fast I can get this done, how fast I can grocery shop, how fast. You know, we go to Walmart's because they have everything at once, you know, whereas, 50 years ago, you went to a flower store, you went to the eyeglasses store, you went to the grocery store, you went to the automotive place, you went to all these different places. And now we want to get it done so fast that we do it in one stop, get it done so that we can go do so much more. You know, we live in a world where we try to multitask at all times, where we're trying to accomplish multiple things at a time. And the definition of, I guess, is how we look at ourselves is you are what you produce. You are what you get done. And, that's the Martha way more than it is the Mary way. I found a funny story in the book that in 1967 they had a futurist committee that reported to Congress. And this futurist committee that reported to Congress that they thought that by 1985 the work week would be reduced to 22 hours a week and only consist of 27 weeks out of the year. They believed that the rate of technology and the way that it was going, that we were going to be able to get the work done in 1985 in almost half the time in a day and almost half the number of weeks in the year. They felt that nobody would be working anymore, that technology would catch up so fast and would be advanced so fast that we would get all of our work done so quickly that we wouldn't even work. They were wrong. We do get our work done that much quicker, but we just add more to what we have to get accomplished. There's a study that says that the leisure time has actually decreased by 37% since 1973. And that's an incredible amount for it to decrease. Our leisure time, the time that we have for ourselves, has decreased 37% since 1973. There are some things in our life that can't be rushed. If you have children, if you have relationships, the way that you spell love is Time. We have to spend time on things that are important with us. I have to spend time with my children. I have to spend time with my wife. I have to spend time with the Lord. It can't be hurried. You can't do everything quickly in a microwave kind of way. In our spiritual life, we cannot do anything in a hurry. It takes time to do this. Jesus' narrative is that Mary's way is better. Mary's way of paying attention and sitting at the feet of Jesus is better. Martha was distracted. She was divided in her attention. She knew that she should be paying attention to Jesus. She knew that she should be serving Jesus. She was divided in what she needed to do. It wasn't that one was better than the other, or they are, of course, one is better than the other. They were both good, though. And there's a tension there. We need to serve Jesus. We need to do what Jesus has asked us to do, but we also need to sit at the feet of Jesus. She was distracted. She was divided, and she couldn't keep up with what she was doing or what was most important. We need to slow down. We need to find balance between everything in our life, especially in the area of serving Christ and spending time with Christ. If we're not spending time with Christ and trying to serve Christ, we can find ourselves in a pretty tough spot. Jesus' rhythm was one of balance, and we need to try to find balance as well. There's a tension between the serving and the doing of the work of God and the abiding in God. In the book it talks about ruthlessly eliminating hurry, that we need to ruthlessly try to eliminate the idea of being hurried and going on. The way that I've explained this in past, and some of y'all might have heard this before, is that we go through life in a Corvette. We go through life just ding, 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 going as fast as we can. And I believe that we need to slow down and get on a big wheel or a tricycle and go through life slower, where we can see and notice what's going on, where we can see where God is in our midst and active in our own backyard and speaking to us in every moment. If we would just slow down, we would be able to notice all that God is doing and notice where He's at work. The book quotes a very popular notion that it takes 10,000 hours to master anything. Somebody did a study on this. They wrote a book on it that says that if you want to be a master of anything, it takes 10,000 hours to master it. And that if you do put 10,000 hours into it, you can master anything. And that's just the way it is. The book also says that it takes time to make a pickle. It doesn't just instantly happen. It takes time to be changed and transformed. And I believe that is the truth. It takes time to become like Christ. It takes time to be formed into His image. Today, our soul training exercise that we're going to practice as we leave for this next week is just to try to slow down. There's a lot of great advice, and there's 4 steps in there that you can do to try to find out a way to slow down this next week. And I want to invite you to join in with that soul training exercise and try to slow down this week. It's coming to the end of the semester. It might be crazy, but try to do that exercise and to slow down. Next week, we're going to be having a community day. Next week, we're going to have a celebration for the end of the semester. And, I think it's going to be fun. It's going to be great. I look forward to doing that. And why don't you just continue to pray and think about who you can invite to come to this small group, what y'all might be doing next year, next semester in this small group, and see where God might be leading you. But we're looking forward to it and glad that we got to spend the time with you this semester. Thanks. God bless.